Beamy, mid-30s, married, laundry day energy. Husband takes my car to town because I needed gas earlier. Breakfast done, coffee cooling, thinking domestic goddess hour. Decide finish laundry so weekend is unlocked. Standing at the washer, t-shirt off because chores and heat and whatever. Not naked, just caught mid-change, sports bra half visible, normal human stuff. Gear back door open. Assume husband forgot something and came back like a regular person. Open kitchen door from one side. Someone else opens from the other. Meet Devin, husband's buddy from high school, at the threshold. His face is a whole sitcom. Deer in headlights but also trying to be polite. He apologizes like 3 times in one breath. Sorry, thought Devin. Thought your husband was home. His eyes flick around with all the subtlety of a drone. Awkward pause where time invents new levels of awkward. He tries to look at me like I'm a normal human. Not a surprise laundry curtain. I do the hostess smile that says, this is not a thing, but my voice is still in the dryer cycle. He mumbles about calling next time or knocking. Tries to keep composure while clearly second-guessing every neuron. I'll just, leave now, he says. He backs out like a man trying to uninvent a doorbell. He gets in his truck and sits there for a minute. I watch until the truck fades down the road. Decide to finish laundry, try to normalize breathing. Fast forward like 5 days. Get a text from husband. Do you remember Devin stopping by? I say yes and ask why. Husband says nothing, then sends a link to the neighborhood Facebook group. Someone posted about invasion of privacy, with a screenshot of my porch from across the street. Someone in comments says, this is harassment, like we're in a legal thriller. My stomach does that weird drop ping thing, wish I'd never looked at social media again. Next morning neighbor knocks. Marisol from 2B. She's clutching a manila envelope like this is jury duty. Did you know there's a picture going around? She asks, already halfway to courtroom mode. I explain the basics. Keep it simple. Devin walked in. Left. End of story. Marisol frowns and does the community moral calculation in real time. You should apologize. She says like apologizing is a sweater you put on for comfort. I ask apologize to who? Devin? The Facebook group? The entire cul-de-sac. Marisol's eyes go wide like she discovered an ethical loophole. To maintain trust, she says. Like trust is a thing you can return at the post office. I try to explain personal space, he was the one who barged in, etc. Marisol cuts me off with, this is on you. Okay.jpg. Husband comes home late that night like nothing's burning down. He sits at table and scrolls his phone with the kind of focus only possible when you're about to drop a nuance bomb. Devin says he's uncomfortable. He says like he's telling me the weather. I say he should have knocked. Husband shrugs. He felt disrespected. This is the pivot where logic takes a vacation. Next day Devin shows up at our door again. Wears the same trucker hat like it's proof he's from a time before nuance. Look, I didn't mean to. He starts. Then a phrase I will hear on repeat. But you should be more careful. Careful at home. Careful with friends of your husband. Careful while doing laundry. Careful while breathing. I laugh at first because what else do you do? Devin's voice changes into something weirdly clinical. Starts talking about boundaries and consent, with the tone of a man who read 3 blog posts, and now thinks he's an expert witness. I try to steer it back. You popped in, you apologized. That was it. Devin escalates by inventing a protocol on the spot. From now on, you need to lock your door when he takes the car. And maybe wear something if you're expecting traffic. And when people stop by, you should answer through the door first. These are demands, not suggestions. I try to negotiate and say, I can do door checks. He counters with, I think an email to the neighborhood list would be responsible. An email, to the whole neighborhood, about my laundry. This is when the unreasonable character clause clicks into place. Devin weaponizes virtue like a tool belt. Starts using little therapy phrases like, this triggers me, and, I'm being honest about my boundaries. He expects a public performance of remorse from me. Husband looks embarrassed and anxious like he's got a traffic ticket but for feelings. Marisol organizes a community standards chat on Slack because Slack is the ultimate moral tribunal. She invites everyone and pops a pinned message. Safety and respect in our community. I join because who doesn't want to watch a train wreck live? Devin posts in there, short and tidy, like he's delivering an affidavit. Saw someone partially undressed in a shared space. Felt unsafe. Request community norms. Comments explode like a popcorn machine of moral panic. Someone writes, maybe she should be more modest. Someone else counters, people live in houses. Someone posts screenshots from 10 years ago of literally nothing to add context. My name becomes the comma in 10 different discussions. I attempt to explain in the Slack thread, but my replies get buried under virtue flag emojis and policy suggestions. Person named Jamal suggests a neighborhood code of conduct, with a voting poll. There's now a poll about my laundry choices. Vote options include private property / no comment, and need a code, and mandatory doorstep signaling. I used to think democracy was supposed to solve bigger things than this. Phone won't stop buzzing. Devin messages me directly. I really think you owe a statement. Statement? Like a press release for a suburban magazine. I tell him I'll think about it. He replies with thinking isn't action. That line is on his mental business card now. Even my mother texts me and says, "Are you okay?" I'm fine, mostly, but now I have to navigate a community tribunal about a laundry misfire. Work is a joke because now everyone knows and everyone knows everyone knows. Coworker Aaliyah asks me in the break room, "Was that you in the post?" and pronounces it like a sentence she's proud of figuring out. I say yes and she gasps like I revealed a spoiler for the Office drama series. HR gets involved because rumors pinged the company Slack through someone's dumb screenshot. They call me into a meeting with the usual motivational poster behind them. We just want to ensure workplace safety, they say, the corporate version of Marisol. I explain facts, keep it short, avoid emotion like it's a tripping wire. HR says we'll follow up, which is code for we're going to schedule multiple meetings and exile you to training modules. Devin, meanwhile, doubles down publicly. Posts a long message on the neighborhood Slack using phrases like moral duty and accountability. He demands a public apology from me in the next 48 hours. Public apology. In the chat. With emojis allowed. I think of all the apologies I've given in my life. Never one for a t-shirt and the act of doing laundry. Husband refuses to take my side and points out how he felt uncomfortable. I feel like I'm in a courtroom where the laws are made up and the jury is keyboard powered. Decide to draft an apology because sometimes it's better to defuse a situation than let it gasoline itself. Standing in the living room, my hand shakes while typing the first sentence. I'm sorry if anyone was made uncomfortable. Devin replies with, thank you. Community Slack posts a heart emoji, like we just resolved a minor international conflict. I find out later that Devin messaged Marisol privately demanding more. He wants a community education session, where we all learn how to behave around each other. They schedule it in the church basement because everything escalates to a church basement sooner or later. Meeting night comes and it's packed with people who clutch cups of coffee like they're at an intervention. Devin sits at the front with the posture of a man at a podium who discovered his calling. Marisol moderates and starts with "We'll establish norms." Devin begins a presentation with a PowerPoint he made in 15 minutes titled, Respect in Shared Spaces. Slide 1, Definition of Boundaries. Slide 2, How to Report Incidents. Slide 3, The Laundry Incident, complete with vague bullet points. I watch the room turn into a courtroom reenactment with concession stand snacks. Someone raises hand and asks if cameras are allowed on porches. One woman suggests mandatory door chains for all houses. The session becomes less about me and more about an entire cottage industry of new rules. A proposal is floated, neighborhood safety audit. I stand up, because silence makes the rumor louder. I say I accept that Devin was uncomfortable and that I'm sorry he felt that way. People clap politely like a platformer hitting an applause break. Then Devin stands and says, I accept the apology. But this shows a pattern. Pattern of what? Breathing? Owning a washing machine. He pivots and begins accusing me of flirtatious negligence. As if laundry is an invitation to moral critique. He asks for reparations. Reparations for his discomfort. I laugh, but it's the kind of laugh that's not funny. Reparations? I ask. What does that even mean? Devin uses the word healing a lot now. Asks me to pay for a community workshop on boundaries and to attend therapy sessions with him to restore trust. Him. Asking me to attend therapy with him because he felt uncomfortable. This is the point where my brain invents sarcasm to survive. Husband nods like he's watching a telenovela and forgot he was in the cast. I try to say no, but my no sounds like a public service announcement missing a page. Someone in the back says, "We should vote. Vote on whether I should fund a workshop for the person who walked in uninvited." It's official. Democracy has been outsourced to neighborly gossip. Comes to a vote and it's split because of course it is. Some people think Devin has a point. Some people think we're spiraling because the internet taught everyone how to moralize in group chat. I go home and pack a bag because my house feels like an exhibit. Husband and I argue for hours in the car about boundaries and obligation and what the word apology is supposed to mean. He says maybe I should have been more careful. I say he left his friend to patrol my clothes like it's civic duty. We don't resolve anything. Next morning I go to work, and there's an email thread titled Neighborhood Workshop Feedback. Someone included screenshots of my apology page where I wrote, "I'm sorry if anyone was made uncomfortable," like it's evidence on a corkboard. Colleagues whisper and my name becomes shorthand for that laundry controversy. A client cancels a meeting citing unexpected personal matters, which is code for, "We don't want to be involved in your domestic peril." My bank alerts me of a small withdrawal I don't recognize. Turns out someone set up a GoFundMe for the workshop and linked my name as a supporter. I didn't authorize it, but my name is in the supporter list anyway. Call husband. Scream into the phone. Get silence and then, "I'll talk to him." He talks to Devin, who says the GoFundMe was community-led, and he didn't think to clear it with me. This is a new level of gaslight plus bureaucracy. People start avoiding me in stores. I go to buy tampons and the cashier's hand hesitates for a half beat longer than usual. Walk back to an empty car seat and porn of humiliation plays on repeat in my head. Weeks pass and the neighborhood keeps inventing new inconveniences. I get a letter from the Homeowners Association asking for a meeting about privacy concerns. At the meeting, Devin presents a timeline with arrows and sticky notes. He frames himself as the injured party and me as the catalyst for social unrest. Someone from the HOA says, "We need to consider changes to the bylaws." Bylaws. Now my laundry is a bylaw issue. Decide to sell some belongings to cover the unsolicited fundraising, because what else do you do when your name is public property? Husband says selling stuff is dramatic. I say so is being put on a neighborhood ledger for chores. He calls me dramatic back like that will solve how it feels to have autonomy auctioned off by the person who barged in. Devin now has a following of people who think social rules are salad bowls you can toss in a group chat and see what lands. He shows up at the grocery store with Marisol and acts like we're in the same book club. They want an update on the healing. I say I'm surviving, that's the update. Devin gets offended and speaks about accountability, like it's a virtue pin he can hand out. Start to get job calls from people who saw the posts and think hiring me is a PR risk. One recruiter says, "We have a zero drama policy." Zero drama policy means if the world has an opinion about your laundry choices, you are unemployable. I've never been more tired in my life. Finally get a message from Devin. I'm considering filing a formal complaint. Complaint? I thought the thing was about discomfort, not legal papers. It's formal now because formality makes a story have weight. I spend nights drafting statements and send them to my husband, who reads them without comment. Lawyer fee estimates pop up in my inbox because the internet knows how to monetize embarrassment. Our savings drop because we pay for nothing and everything at once. Friends pick sides like a petty election, and the ones who don't pick sides slowly pick their phones instead. There's a school pickup incident where a parent recognizes me and says, "I didn't know," like that's an apology in itself. I try to laugh at the surrealism, but the laugh is a used-up sound. Devin starts a podcast called Boundaries First, where he mentions an anonymous incident in passing and invites callers to submit boundary stories. It goes viral regionally because people love moral panic packaged as sound bites. I get hate messages from strangers telling me to model decency in my own home. I answer one with "I own a washing machine," and then delete it because internet is not a therapist. Husband says maybe we should move for a fresh start. Moving is an admission that the neighborhood has power over your life. He also says moving is expensive and we have bills and student loans and a cat who hates travel. We stay because staying is cheaper than running. Months drag like a suspense film with no satisfying reveal. Devin occasionally shows up at my work building entrance pretending this is a casual happenstance. I start using different doors, different coffee shops, different routes to feel less like a specimen understudy. But news circulates like napkins in a diner. It spreads and then stains everything it touches. One night husband comes home and says, "Devin wants to talk." I know what this means. Ultimatum season. Devin sits across the table like a man who discovered his mission statement and forgot empathy. He lists demands again, but now they are procedural. Public apology, payment for workshop, attendance at mediation, and a formal neighborhood pact where I sign to follow unwritten modesty guidelines. I say that's insane and he says, "People deserve to feel safe." I ask him who gets to write the rules about feeling safe and he points at himself like a man who tripped into a cape and declared himself hero. Husband looks at me and says, "I'm torn." That is how collusion begins. Devin leaves after a long monologue about restorative justice, but his restoration looks like my pockets emptied into his cause. Somewhere between the PowerPoint and the podcast I lost control of a mundane moment. Weeks later there's a small claims court notice because Devin filed for emotional damages and an injunction for community safety. Emotional damages for being startled by a human being doing laundry. Court date scheduled with the solemnity of a funeral for normal life. We hire a lawyer because it's the only thing left to do that isn't just swallowing humiliation silently. The court hearing is a theater of banalities. Devin speaks with rehearsed outrage. Marisol provides a testimony about community standards, and I sit with my lawyer folding papers like a lost origami project. Judge asks questions that sound like headlines and less like legal ones. In the end, judge dismisses parts of claim but orders a mediated meeting because the law likes to outsource discomfort to talk rooms. Mediation is a circus of politely angry people and a facilitator with a calm voice. Devin insists on structured apologies and community repair language. I say I'm willing to acknowledge his discomfort and that I didn't intend harm. He counters with a demand to sign a behavior agreement that includes clauses about how I should dress at home during daylight hours. Clauses about clothes. In my own home, I refuse and the mediator sighs like this is a famous episode. We walk away with nothing resolved and new paperwork that certifies ongoing tensions. The neighborhood newsletter runs a piece on civility and includes a sidebar about lessons learned with a tasteful photo of a washing machine. My name is not in the newsletter because they learned lessons, not people. Husband becomes distant, like a roommate who remembers there used to be romance, but prefers the convenience of shared bills. I stop inviting friends over because hosting now feels like stage managing a potential scandal. Sleep is weak and full of those half-formed apologies you can't take back. One night, I see Devin driving by slow and making eye contact like he owns property in my emotional landscape. He doesn't wave. He doesn't need to. He has already constructed a world where my small misstep is a wedge and he is the lever. Months turn into a new normal that is worse than the old normal. I get an email about a new job opening in a different city, but it's remote, and I say maybe because maybe is safer than yes or no. Husband says take it for us, and I say we can't uproot everything for a man who refuses accountability. He says moving would be giving in, and I say staying is giving in to being policed by your friend's conscience. We argue until the words are empty and then laugh because what else do you do when the world is absurd? The podcast gains an episode called How One Incident Sparked a Movement, and Devin is a guest talking about community standards and courageous discomfort. I am not mentioned by name, but context, like steam, fogs into recognition. People start quoting lines from his episode like scripture in comment sections. My life is now one of the footnotes. Friends call less often because who wants to take the emotional tax of being my friend? I pay bills and try not to flinch when kids in the cul-de-sac play tag too close to my porch. One day a kid is playing and runs into our lawn, falls, cries, and I kneel down and help, and the mother watches me like I'm auditioning for Reputation Redemption. I don't get any thanks from the neighborhood committee for healing a kid who skinned his knee. Devin posts about the importance of community vigilance and shares an article about consent culture. I scroll and see a photo of a generic house with clothes on a porch used to illustrate an op-ed about morality. I throw my phone onto the couch and it makes a hollow sound like everything inside has been emptied. Husband and I sleep in the same bed for a while and then start sleeping like two people on a boat with different anchors. There is no dramatic finale. No reconciliation scene on the porch with slow music. No lesson learned by Devin or Marisol or the Slack group. Just small ongoing losses. A client gives us a last project and declines renewal citing brand risk. I answer surveys that ask if I feel safe in my neighborhood and check boxes like somewhat, because lying feels useless. Devin continues his moral crusade with merch and a mailing list and an email every month about boundary tips. Sometimes I see him in town and he nods like a man who saved a city single-handedly. My husband begins to talk about financial plans with a dryness that used to belong to spreadsheets and now belongs to emotional distances. I start looking at apartments across town and calculate how many months of rent equals freedom. Freedom has an invoice attached to it now. We never actually move. The house sells 2 years later because life continues and people change addresses like seasons. We hand the keys to new owners who don't know the scent of old arguments. Devin moves on to new causes and new podcast guests. Marisol runs for a committee seat and wins because civic vigilance is a resume booster. I keep a lamp in a box in the garage and one evening sit under its light and think about the washing machine humming like a memory. Nothing feels properly resolved. There is no cinematic closure where everyone learns a lesson and hugs. There is the slow erosion of privacy, the hollowing out of ordinary things, and the knowledge that a small stumble can be weaponized by someone who mistakes discomfort for entitlement. Story ends not with a tidy bow but with a living room where the lamp flickers and the washer finishes its cycle, and I am left with the quiet cost of a moment that should have gone unnoticed. No redemption. No satisfying apology from the unreasonable character beyond performative posts and PowerPoint slides. Just ongoing awkwardness, small losses, and the bitter taste of how easily a life can be rearranged by other people's invented rules.